you all for being here. Welcome to my district. This is House District 50. If you've ever seen the TV show Friday Night Lights, you know this district because the show was filmed just on the other side of 35 at our high school football stadium. We care about public education in this community, just like every community across Texas. 6 years ago, Greg Abbott showed up at this school behind me, Palmer Lane Elementary. He held a press conference with lots of cameras and promised to invest in public schools like this one. Now, this school behind me is at risk of closing because Greg Abbott has refused to invest a penny of new funding into our public schools since 2019. Now, Texas ranks 43rd in the nation in per student education funding. Texas teachers are making less than they did 10 years ago when you adjust for inflation. And local property taxes are through the roof because our state government has failed to do its fair share of school funding. 6 years ago, Greg Abbott promised to invest in public schools like this one. Now he's letting them close. So what changed? Follow the money. A group of billionaires who want to privatize our Texas schools bought our governor. One of them, an East Coast billionaire named Jeff Yass, gave our governor one check for $6 million, the largest campaign contribution in Texas history. So now Greg Abbott is starving our public schools and pushing a private school voucher scam, which will take even more money out of schools like this one and put it in the hands of millionaires and billionaires. Greg Abbott broke his promise that he made here at Palmer Lane Elementary. He's no longer working for the nearly 6 million Texas school children. Now he works for billionaires who can write a $6 million check. You're going to hear not just from legislators, but also from a parent and a teacher. Some of the parents and teachers here are fighting to keep this school open. They're doing everything they can to protect our children, even though Greg Abbott won't. You're going to hear from Rep. Gina Hinojosa. You're going to hear from one of those parents and a former teacher. You're going to hear from Rep. Retta Bowers. You're going to hear from Chairman Gene Wu. And then I'll come back up here and answer a few questions. Thank you again for being here. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Rep. Gina Hinojosa.
Thank you, Representative Tallarico. I'm State Representative Gina Hinojosa, and I represent Central Austin in the Texas House. But most importantly, I am a mother to a child in Texas public schools. I first ran for office because my son's school was threatened for closure. Our schools have been in crisis for years, and Governor Abbott has only made it worse. About 2 years ago, my son didn't even get a 5th grade teacher because there were no teachers willing to work for the pay and under the conditions that Austin ISD was offering. We have a teacher retention crisis in this state, and Governor Abbott has known about it for years, but has done nothing. And in fact, the last time he convened the legislature, he held precious tax dollars that our neighborhood schools needed hostage and teacher pay raises hostage because he didn't get his voucher bills, his scam passed.
Right.
Schools closed, our students suffered, and teachers left. Teachers also leave the profession because politicians in Austin micromanage the profession and compel our teachers to teach to a deeply flawed test. And I will tell you right now that as a mother of a child in public schools, I'll be damned if my son has to continue to take the STAR test while wealthy families get to opt out of the STAR with our taxpayer dollars.
Right.
If the STAR test is good enough for 5.5 million students in Texas public schools, it's good enough for all students receiving a taxpayer-funded public education or education. And if it's not, then no child should be subjected to the STAR test or the accountability system that our state inflicts on our students. This should not be complicated. This should not be so political. Once upon a time, not too long ago, we could all agree that the best thing we could do for our students was to put a great teacher in the classroom.
That's right.
Then Governor Abbott and too many Republican leaders started to vilify our teachers and our neighborhood schools, all to take money out of our classroom and line the pockets of the profiteers. Taxpayer-funded vouchers are the last big grift. Governor Abbott will pillage and plunder our schools until there is nothing left. But you can stop him, because real change doesn't happen under the Capitol dome. Real change happens in our communities, in our neighborhoods. Tell your friends. Let them know that taxpayer-funded vouchers will hurt our kids and hurt our neighborhood schools. On February 22nd, there will be a Save Texas Schools rally at the Texas Capitol. Please come, show up in force. And if you can't come, organize something in your own community. You hold all the power, and I am asking you, I am begging you to please use it for our kids. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rena Clegg, and I've been a public school teacher in Texas for 23 years. I worked at this campus right behind us for 17 of those years. This is a Title I campus with low SES students, and yet time and time again, it's been a highly rated campus. In fact, it was so highly rated in 2019 that our campus was chosen by Governor Abbott to sign HB 3 on the stage. And he sat there in front of all of us, and he promised to give us a fully funded school. He called it a sweeping and historic school finance bill. And then, thanks to a district budget crisis in 2023, I stood in front of that same stage and begged our school board members not to close our campus. My son was there. He was a student in that school. Those were my family members. I worked there and gave everything I had to those students, those families. I stood with them and I begged and pleaded and I fought for our schools, and I'm still fighting to get our public schools fully funded. That day in 2019 was the last time I remember hearing Governor Abbott talk about investing in public education. Since then he's championed vouchers that would take even more of our tax dollars out of our public schools. The school board ultimately did not close our schools, but to stay afloat, they were forced to make painful cuts, and their budget problems did not disappear. Most Texas districts are facing this same problem right now. This is not because of wasteful spending or high teacher salaries. It's due to lack of funds from the state of Texas.
That's right.
It's because our state leaders are actively working to destroy public schools in the name of school choice. They have the power to reverse this crisis right now. For years, we have been calling on Governor Abbott and our legislators to fight as hard for our neighborhood schools as we parents, teachers, students, and elected local leaders are fighting for them. But instead, they're pushing a private school voucher scam that's estimated to take $1 billion out of public schools and will put $4 billion of our tax dollars into private schools by 2028. To be clear, school choice exists in Texas already. I don't just stand here today as a teacher. I'm a mother. And my 9-year-old son attends school in Pflugerville ISD. But we don't live here. And I don't work here. We applied for an out-of-district transfer. It was easy, it was free, and he is currently thriving at River Oaks Elementary. We already have choice within our public education system. We don't need voucher scams. We need fully funded public schools for the 5.5 million Texas children in this state. That is what our children deserve. That is what my son deserves. That is what my students deserve. And that is what we will continue to fight for. Today, I call on Greg Abbott and our state legislators to finally do the right thing and fully fund our public schools. And I beg them to listen. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, and thank you so very much for your passionate remarks.
Thank you to my colleagues, to Rep. James Tallarico, Representative Gina Hinojosa, and Chairman Gene Wu. And I must pause for a moment and say Happy Black History Month.
Yes.
Good morning again, everyone. I am Representative Retta Andrews Bowers, and I have the honor of representing House District 113, which includes the wonderful communities of Garland, Mesquite, Rowlett, and Seagoville, just north of here. I want to take a moment to sincerely thank each of you for being here today, as well as those tuning in from home. Your time and engagement means so much, and I truly appreciate your commitment to this issue and the important conversations we're having. Education is the foundation of opportunity. Every child, regardless of race, income, or zip code, deserves a fully funded, high-quality public education. And I'm thankful to say today that my two kids received that. But we've got to do more. Voucher programs threaten that very promise as we move forward, and Black students stand to lose the most. Public schools educate the vast majority of Black children in Texas. When the state diverts public dollars into private institutions, it drains resources from the schools that need them most. Texans already struggle with underfunded schools, overcrowded classrooms, and overworked teachers. Taking money away does not create opportunity, it deepens inequality. Public schools serve every child. Private schools do not. They can pick and choose their students, denying admission based on test scores, discipline history, disabilities, or even whether a student fits their culture. That means Black students, especially those who need extra support, are often excluded. And where do they go? Where do they go, y'all? When vouchers fail them? Right back to an underfunded public school that has lost even more resources. Vouchers also do not cover the real cost of private school. Tuition alone far exceeds what a voucher provides, not to mention transportation, books, and fees. Families who already have the means to afford private schools are the ones who benefit, while working class Black families are left behind. Even worse, voucher programs produce weak academic outcomes. Multiple studies show that students using vouchers often perform worse in math and reading than their public school peers. Unlike public schools, private schools receiving voucher funds are not required to meet the state academic standards, employ certified teachers, or report performance data. We demand accountability from public schools, so why should private schools be exempt? Public schools have long been a powerful tool for Black students to achieve upward mobility. Historically, Black families fought for equal access to education, from Brown versus Board of Education to the Civil Rights Movement. Now vouchers threaten to undo that progress, fueling racial and economic segregation by shifting funds away from schools that serve Black children. If we truly care about educational opportunity for Black students and all students, the answer is not vouchers. It is fully funding our public schools. That means paying teachers what they deserve, reducing class sizes, increasing resources for special education and bilingual programs, and strengthening college and career pathways. Voucher programs are a false promise that leave all our students behind. Instead of funding a broken system that benefits a select few, we must invest in the public schools that serve all our children. And I will continue fighting to protect public education, and I call on all my colleagues to do the same. Our students deserve better. Thank you.
My name is Gene Wu. I'm the state rep from House District 137, and also the House Democratic Caucus chair. what you see today, you see teachers, parents, you see Democratic leaders. What you see is a united coalition to stand against voucher scams. It is a united coalition that says, put our students first, put our teachers first, put our schools and our communities first over the billionaires who are pushing this. Yesterday, Governor Abbott gave his state of the state and said he understood what crisis our school system is in. He says he understood that schools are about to close around the state. He understood that rural schools have gone from 5 days down to 4 days, maybe down to 3 days, or no days at all. But he has not explained to any of us united on this side, to explain why. Why is it okay to rob the poor to pay the rich? Yeah. Why is it okay when there are no produces on our grocery shelves? Is it okay to take our hard-earned tax dollars and give it to rich people who didn't even ask for it? When veterans and the elderly and disabled are not even getting their basic checks needed to survive on a day-to-day basis, when we are not making it forward, how do we tell people we're going to take your money and give it to rich people so they can send their kids to private school, so they don't have to have their kids with your kids? Yes. How do we do that? Somebody on Governor Abbott's team needs to explain that, or maybe better yet, Governor Abbott needs to come here in front of this school and explain why he allowed this school to be underfunded, why he held them hostage, why he held them hostage to do the bidding of billionaires who don't even live in this state. Yes. And this is not a Democrat versus Republican issue, I promise you. Because last time, there were 24 Republicans who gave it everything, who put everything on the line, and 15 of them sacrificed their entire people who understand that if we do not provide our education, our students the very best education, then what are we doing? Why are we here? What's the point of all this if we're not doing our best for our kids? Go and demand it. This is a call to Democrats, Republicans, Independents, anybody who will listen. If you are out there, you're listening, and you care about what happens to our state, you want us to go back to a powerful, robust middle class where people have good jobs if they can graduate, let's do that. Let's fight for that. Let's fight for the future we want. Say no to voucher scams.